Margaret Whitcomb, and, or I should say Margaret Whitcomb Johnson, Margaret Wynne Johnston Whitcomb, and B.A., B.E.D., M.E.D., and O.S.T.J. So she's lived here since 1992. She's got 4 children and 4 grandchildren. She's been for 42 years. She was a teacher and principal, fluently French and English bilingual, and that was in Ottawa, Toronto, Edmonton, and East Ontario. She was 5 years a real estate representative in the Brockville area, and she's volunteered with the Leeds Grenville Lanark St. John Ambulance Board for 23 years, and including being a chair. She's the Brockville Public Library Board, 28 years, including being chair and president, and the Ontario Library Board Association, and also St. Lawrence Academy Board, 10 years, which is a small private school in Prescott. Currently manage 103 commercial and residential units in Brockville and Perth, and currently working in a law office in Perth as an office manager and real estate assistant. So please welcome Margaret Whitcomb.
She needs to stand up there so we can up here. If you stand by the podium, or
Okay. No, just stand right there. But it's good. Yeah, so they can see you.
So I can see
Yeah.
that.
all right.
Yeah.
Well, good morning, everyone. Happy Valentine's Day. It's a great idea to meet in the Legion. During World War I, St. John Ambulance mobilized 45,000 volunteers. And by the end of World War I, 1,077 of them had lost their lives. St. John began in the Middle Ages. There was a group of knights on crusade to Jerusalem, and they decided to provide hospital care to the pilgrims who were making that journey. That continued for hundreds of years, eventually spread to England, and it continued until the Reformation, when Henry VIII shut it down. That was it. A small group of knights called the Order of Malta continued in France, and they spread back into England. By 1820, there was a St. John Ambulance group there. Now, factory conditions in those days were very, very bad. A lot of people were very, very poor, getting injured on the job in the factories. And so St. John Ambulance decided to teach first aid to people in the factories and also to people running the railroads, because Britain's railroads were expanding, and in the mines, so that the colliers, the railway workers, and the factory workers would have first aid. That continued until 1883, when St. John Ambulance was actually properly formed as a community activity. The then Princess of Wales, Princess Alexandra, her husband Edward, the two of them became Queen Alexandra and King Edward VII, became very interested in providing first aid to people. Excuse me. And so the two of them she became a Lady of Justice, which was a position in the Order of Malta. He became a knight as well. The two of them persuaded Queen Victoria to become interested in it, and she set up the Order of Chivalry, which now we know as the most venerable order of the Hospitallers of St. John of Jerusalem. Queen Victoria was the head of that order at the time, and since then every king and queen of England has been the head of the worldwide St. John Ambulance program.
Didn't know that.
We have two branches. One is the St. John Eye Hospital Group. It functions as the only and oldest charity hospital hospital in the Middle East, ophthalmic, obviously. It's staffed, 49 beds, staffed by doctors and local doctors and specialists from around the world who volunteer their time. It also runs eye clinics in refugee camps in Bethlehem and Ramallah and Nablus. They have recently set up child vision screening programs in the West Bank and in Gaza. And it's very important, the work they do, because Palestinian children are very, very susceptible genetically to cataracts. This hospital and all of its adjuncts function regardless of ethnicity or religion or ability to pay. You can walk in off the street and they will treat your eye problems. The other branch, excuse me, the other branch is St. John Ambulance. And it began teaching first aid, as I mentioned, in England. Over the next 100 years, expanded to the point where in Canada, for instance, there are now 300 communities with St. John Ambulance institutions. We have about 10,000 volunteers in Canada, and they donated 1 million volunteer hours last year. In Ontario, we have 29 branches, and I have a story about this branch. You've heard the name John Matheson. John was a volunteer in the Second World War. He was rescued, injured from the battlefield in Italy, treated in England, came back to Canada, and in 1959, he started with a number of Rockville citizens. He started the first St. John Ambulance branch. In Canada, it had been going for a while. The first aid courses were taught in Quebec City in 1883. Shortly after that, the next courses were taught in Kingston to the cadets at RMC. And now, as I said, there are about 300 teaching groups in Canada. The local group, we have 40 volunteers at the moment. Our volunteer numbers did, in fact, go down during the pandemic. We had been as high as 70. We are building up again. We have an MFR, our Medical First Responder Unit. They train rigorously, almost weekly, all winter long. They are trained to assess a situation. They are trained to decide what care can be provided. And then they provide that care until the paramedics arrive. We do not transport people even though we use some ambulances. We are there in emergency first aid only. You'll see us out at Santa Claus Parade, Riverfest, Perth Stewart Park Festival, the Prescott Fort Night Run. Anytime any event is going to occur, they will phone us and we will go. We do not require payment. We do hope that people will make donations. But that's it. We extend through Leeds, Grenville, and Lanark, so all the way up north of Almont. We are considered the little branch that could from Toronto. Our second group is the Therapy Dogs group. We currently have 21 teams. We do not train the dogs. They are tested, and then they go out to Brockville General Hospital. They go out to Perth Community Care. They go out to nursing homes and so on. They spread joy, and actually now we do realize that the visit from a friendly dog lowers your blood pressure. So that's a good side effect as well. We teach first aid locally. Excuse me. We have a very nice facility on Perth Street, opposite the fire hall. Most people take the 2-day first aid course. It's a long 2 days. You are trained as the result to be able to donate your time for the first 10, 12, 15 minutes at an event, at home, a spouse, a child, a neighbor, a co-worker. It saves lives. Those first 10 minutes are so critical. And across the world, St. John is now in 35 countries. And we don't always teach the same things in different countries. Depending on the local requirements, it might be child care, it might be safe motherhood, it might be disaster preparation. Locally, it is largely personal care for an event such as a cardiac event, choking. Our medical first responders are actually trained in multiple casualty assessment. So it is a very, very good situation. And I thank you very much for letting me tell you.
We do have a few minutes for questions first.
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
So if anybody has any questions for Margaret?
I noticed you have an automatic defibrillator there. That is one of the parts of the 2-day training that you get. I don't know how many of you know how to use it, but it talks to you when you open the door. It tells you what to do with that one, and you practice on them as part of your training.
Dave, do you have a question?
Just a comment, how positive the St. John's Ambulance is for the festivals that I'm involved in, the River Fest and the Tall Ships. They're always there, they're quick responding, they're very, very friendly as well, and really helped us out for a long stretch of time, so thank you again.
Well, thank you. And that particular River Fest, we had volunteers come down from Brantford to help us as well, because we had volunteers who, they have full-time jobs, but then Saturday and Sunday, they will go out and spend another 10 or 15 hours as a volunteer. We have one paid person in Brockville. She works in our office on First Street. Every other person is giving their time.
Don?
How do you get your funding then? Do you fundraise yourself, or?
We do occasionally, yes, but most of it comes from the courses that we teach in the community. We have very good instructors. At the moment, one of our instructors, because of the fact that we are now expanding our area, one of them will go to Belleville to teach when Belleville phones us.
Can you talk about the expansion then you just mentioned?
Yes, Toronto is reorganizing the whole of Ontario, and because we have been proven to be so capable, we are going to be assisting in large part with the Eastern Ontario reorganization, which will stretch from Cornwall through Kingston and up to Renfrew. So instead of just Leeds, Grenville, and Lanark, we are going to be a great, it's quite a thing to have asked of us, but we're up for it.
Right, you have a question?
Every time.
Okay, next, ready? Do you know how to do the Heimlich? Oh, no, mine was very similar to Don's. I was curious as to how many sessions a year do you provide and like,
I actually have the numbers, but I can't.
well, just a round number.
That wasn't my
Tell you.
question.
You might regret having asked. Okay, this year, we taught 243 first aid courses. They're not only the standard course, we also have a marine course if you are going to be giving first aid on a boat, and obviously that's important here. We have a babysitting course as well for kids. You know, you cannot legally babysit before a certain age, but at that age, it's very useful to know what to do if you're in charge of the child and so on and so forth. 2023, we trained in this area 2,581 people. And I hope some of you were one of those people. If you weren't, please tell me.
Any other questions? Okay, then we'll, Don?
Just a comment, I was surprised that you told that the organization started back in the biblical days, that's amazing.
Yeah, when the Crusades started, and of course that was going to the Holy Land, and it was obviously all Catholic at that time. Then Henry VIII decided to split, and he shut down anybody who was working in that religion, which is why it ceased to exist. But there were people in France who kept it going for 200 or 300 years.
Okay, thank you. To give thanks to my club, we have Emily.
Hi, thank you for sharing with us today. What we like to do to thank our speakers is the notebook, and we donate it to the Wellington Public Library. We kind of give it to you and take it back to give to them. On the inside cover, it will have your name.
Thank you very much.
And my book today is Mighty Merc. It's about a robot, and a new one came out that was faster and stronger.
Thank you, Emily. Thank you, Margaret.
Thank you very much.
Can we have attendance, please?